Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sediko Rakolote. I am the founder and the trustee of the Progressive Socio-Economic Investment Institute. It is a trust that was established for public benefit activities. One of those public benefit activities is to organize webinars where we discuss various topics. Tonight, we'll be discussing about structuring your research proposal. I know this is a challenge to most of the students in terms of structuring their research proposal, and we've managed to persuade the founder of the methodology expert at the Center for Research Methods, and author of the book Step-by-Step Guide to Qualitative Data Quoting, a co-author of the book The Theoretical Framework in Phenomenological Research Development and Application, a man who has got a PhD and very passionate about research. Colleagues, allow me to welcome our presenter for today, Dr. Phillip Adu. Over to you, Dr. Phillip.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sediko, for the inviting me to be part of this section. It's really an honor to share what I know and also bring more information to people who want to do research so that they can do the research in a quality way. And so I really appreciate you inviting me to be part of this session. So as you know, we are going to, I'm going to present about structuring your research proposal. And let me go to the next one. So these are the three issues that I'm going to focus on, right? So I want to just give you a basic understanding of research proposal, right? And I'm going to also talk about thinking about your audience, knowing your audience, or your readers of your proposal. And lastly, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the structuring. What are the components that you have to look into and write about when you are developing a proposal? So these are the three issues that I want to focus on. So in terms of research proposal, what comes into mind is you are developing a research plan, right? You want to do research, you are interested in a specific topic, you are interested in a specific problem that you want to do research. But before you embark on research, you have to think about planning, right? You have to plan, think about how, who are you going to do the research? Who are you going to focus? Where are you going to collect the data? What are the theoretical framework, right? And how are you going to analyze your data? What questions do you want to address? What are your hypotheses? And how are you going to analyze and develop themes or develop results that will help you to test the hypothesis that you have? So you have to have a plan. And also, when you think about research proposal, it's also a proposed study. Why is it called a proposed study? Because you haven't embarked on a study yet. You are proposing your study to somebody, a group of people, for them to read what you want to do, which is your research plan, and then decide whether you have to do the research or make recommendations and in terms of how you want to do, you have to do the research. So when you're thinking about proposal, you are thinking about research plan, you are thinking about proposed study, and also you have to think about your stakeholders. Who are your stakeholders? Those people who are going to read your proposal. You are not developing a proposal for yourself. You are developing a proposal for somebody to make sense of what you want to study. And then they will make a decision whether you have to embark on the study or you have to change things, right? So you don't have to only focus on developing a perfect proposal. You also have to think about your audience, your readers, those people who are gatekeepers, those people who are making sure that you are doing a quality research, right? So these are the three things that you have to think about when you are developing your research proposal. So let's start by talking about knowing your readers, right? When we are developing proposal, most of the time we don't think about who are going to read our proposal. We just, we are so engaged, we are so interested in the topic. You have identified a very unique problem. You want to do research, but who are going to read it? You always have to think about your audience, because you are communicating, you are developing a concept, you are developing a content, you are giving to a consumer who are consumers, who are the readers of your proposal. So whenever you are about to start your proposal, think about who are your readers, who are the members of the committee, who are funding this project. What are their characteristics? What are their expectations? What are the level of influence, right? You have to know all these things, because if you don't know all these things, you'll do a perfect proposal and you'll be disappointed. They will not accept it because you didn't meet the expectation, right? Or you don't know their levels of influence. You don't know their expertise. So it's always important as a researcher to think and know your readers. So let's think about the characteristics of your readers. So when, I'm speaking from the perspective of those students, people who are doing their research in schools, right? Doing their research who are students, right? So normally, if you are doing your doctoral education, you should have to think about writing a thesis or dissertation, right? And you have to think about, the committee that will be reading and giving you feedback and accepting your study and approving your proposal. You always have to think about what are their roles, right? So your supervisor, what is your supervisor's role? What is the member of the committee? What are their roles? Knowing their roles is so important to help you to know how to navigate through this process successfully. What are their expertise? Are expertise aligned with what you are focusing on? Let's think about methodology. In terms of expertise, are they more aligned with qualitative study or quantitative study? What are their level of interest? Are they really interested in your topic? Do they really care about your topic? Right? Knowing all this information will help you to develop a very good proposal. So I did my dissertation, I think 12 years ago, right? 11 or 12 years ago. And when I was thinking about who can be part of my committee, right? I thought about, okay, what am I studying? What help do I need, right? So my study was about finding out, conceptualizing the information about doctoral advice and how doctoral students are being advised when they reach their dissertation stage. And I was using a unique approach called concept mapping. And so when I was choosing my committee, I looked for the people who, a person who understand this approach so that they can give me a very good feedback. So whenever you are doing a research and the members and you are choosing, you have a right to choose the members of the committee, right? You always have to think about what role are they going to play in your study? What contribution are they going to make? What are their expertise? So that you'll be able to get good feedback from them. It's also important to also know their level of interest, right? You have to choose people who are interested in your topic, who are so passionate about your topic. They might not be passionate, but they have a little bit of interest, right? So that they'll be able to give you a very good feedback, right? So it's very important to get all this information so that you'll be able to do a successful study. So the next one that you have to think about is the expectations, right? So what are the expectations? In terms of what do they expect from you in terms of your proposal? what is the content? So sometimes, you know what I did? I met my supervisor frequently to know his expectation. I met the members of the committee individually to know what each of them expect from me. Knowing their expectation will shape the way you present and develop your proposal. You have to also know the structure. Some universities, they have a specific structure in terms of how to write a proposal. You have to be aware. It's the same thing, you know, if you are finished school and you are doing a proposal to a funding organization for them to fund your project, know what they expect from you, right? They might have their structure there. You have to know and then do based on your the structure they have presented to you. They also can give you a timeline. So you have to be aware of the timeline. All these background research and knowledge should be done before you start working on your proposal. So the next one is the level of influence. This is so important. When it comes to dissertation committee, you know, there are members in the committee that have higher influence than others. You have to figure it out and see, you know, how to work with them closely. Most of the time, your supervisor have the higher influence. So you have to work with your supervisor so that you all will be on the same page. In case of anything, your supervisor can defend you, right? Sometimes some members might have a very good influence or higher influence. You have to meet them frequently. You have to find out your opinion, making sure that you are meeting their expectations so that the process will be so smooth in terms of them approving your proposal. So these are the three things that you have to know. Let me go back again. You have to understand the characteristics, their expectation, and also their level of influence, right? So the next one that you have to think about, let's go to the structuring. So now you have done your background work. You know the expectation, you know what you know the role they are playing in your study, right? Now you have to start your structuring your proposal. So whenever you think about structuring your proposal, think about A, B, C, right? A stands for assembling, B stands for building, and then C stands for communicating. You're assembling, building, and communicating. So let's start with assembling. So assembling, as the name implies, so what you're doing is that you already know what is expected of you. You already know the topics or the subtopics that you have to work on under this proposal. So what you have to do is to gather information, right? So you know that for every proposal, you should have a background of the problem that you are focusing on. So what do you have to do? Construct the background, think about what is expected of you in terms of the background. You also have to think about the research problem. I'm going to talk in more detail about that. The purpose of the study, the research question, significance of the study, delimitation, limitations, theoretical framework, literature review, research methods, population and sample, and we have procedure and data analysis, and also the timeline. Sometimes some schools you are expected to provide a timeline. So it's very important for you to have all these things. I don't have all the list because every school is different. So in your school or in your organization or the funding organization, find out what they expect from you, what are the components under a proposal, and then you can work on them. So you assemble all the things. So you know that you're expected to work on all these things. So bring them together, assemble them, right? It's a part of the structuring. So let's go one by one, right, concerning these topics. So the first one that you have to think about is the background. So you have your topic, you are so interested about your topic, you have identified a unique topic, you are so excited. You have to think about the problem, right? what is the problem that you want to address in the study, right? So based on the topic, come up with a problem. But when you want to talk about a problem, you want to introduce the problem to your audience. How do you introduce a problem? You start with the background, right? There are two main strategies that you could use. The first one is the funnel strategy. I'm going to talk about that. And a persuasive strategy. You can use one of them, right? Or you can use both, right? It's all about knowing how to, it's like you are before the main show, it's like there is a performance, right? Before the main performance, people come and introduce the main performance or perform the mini performance. So what you're doing is that before you introduce the problem that you want to focus on, what do you have to do? You have to present the background. And the first strategy that most of the articles that, when you're reading research articles, the popular strategy is the funnel strategy. So it looks like a funnel, right? You start with general information, and then you come up with a specific information, from general to specific. And then what you do is you try to connect concept, event, situation, people, and then we have to find out the connection between them, right? So let's see. Let me try to move this bar. It's covering what I'm going to read here. Okay, so I'm putting the bar here. Okay, so look at this example. And also, when you get access to my PowerPoint, there's a link that I provided to Mr. Sediko. He can, put the link there in the chat box so that I can get access to the PowerPoint. So looking at this example from the article, I selected from the article. So many people with serious mental health are challenged doubly. On one hand, they struggle with the symptoms and disabilities that result from the disease. On the other, they are challenged by the stereotype and prejudice that result from misconception about mental health. As a result of both, people with mental health are robbed of opportunities that define a quality life. So you see how the writers or the authors use the funnel method, right? They started with a general information, right? Many people have mental health issues. And then they talk about two main struggles that they are having. They are struggling with the symptoms. At the same time, they are also challenged with the stereotype and prejudice, right? So you see how they started with general information and then gave the writer or the writers gave explanation broken down. So there's an explanatory relationship between the first sentence and the second sentence, right? And then the second sentence have concurrent relationship, right? Both of the issues are happening together. And then the last sentence is the outcome or the effect of the concurrent relationship that is happening, right? They are struggling with mental health issues and they are being discriminated upon, right? And based on that, it's affecting their quality of life. So you see how they are using the funnel method or the funnel strategy in introducing the problem that you want to focus on. So, if you want to know more, you can read this article. You can get access to the article. So the second one is a persuasive method or strategy. So sometime before you introduce the problem, you want to draw people's attention about the importance of this problem that you have identified. And some people use statistics, right? For example, military members and veterans experience mental health tribulations and related consequences at high rates. Estimates state 17 to 22 veterans die by suicide every day in the United States. So you see, the person is going to talk about the mental health issue the veterans face. But in order to let people know that this is the severity of the issue, the person presented statistics, right? Sometimes too, you can also present a unique case. Especially, people love stories, right? If you are doing a presentation and you start with a story or you include stories, people pay attention to, right? You ignite emotions, right? So in this case, if you want to use a unique situation, let's say you are focusing on maybe teenage pregnancy, right? In a specific location. And then you pick up one case, which has been documented. And then you talk about it, about the prevalence and the severity of the case, of the issue, to introduce the importance or the need for us to address the issue. You could do that to catch people's attention, to introduce the problem, right? So these are the two strategies that researchers use. There are many types, or you can combine and you can start with the funnel and then insert the case or statistics. It's all about communicating. The essence of the background is to introduce the problem to your audience. The next one is the research problem. So what is the research problem? People call it research gap, right? The problem is the issue that you want to address in the study. The thing that has not been addressed that you want to address in a study, right? So think about it. So based on the literature that you have read, what is limited that cause you to do this research? There are different types of gap. We have knowledge gap, especially when there's an issue and there's not much knowledge about the issue. So there's a knowledge gap, right? There's not a lot of research that has been done concerning the issue. So you want to do research to do to find out what is going on, right? The example that I gave you, teenage pregnancy in a specific location. Maybe there's been research in many places, but this location is so unique that there's limited information that has been done. There is limited study that has been done, and then you want to do research and do and address that problem, right? So you have to think about knowledge gap. Sometimes you can also find methodology gap. There have been an issue or a topic or something that you are interested in, but most of the studies have done quantitative study about it, right? Limited study have done using qualitative or mixed methods. So you can do research. So this means that there's a methodology gap. So you can do qualitative research and look at the same issue from the qualitative point of view, right? Empirical gap. There is no empirical evidence to support an idea or an issue that is really happening. So you want to do research. Sometimes that issue is so obvious. One issue is that drinking and driving, right? If you drink and drive, there's high probability for you to get an accident, right? And let's assume that it has happened all the time, but there's no research that has been done. There's no empirical evidence. Nobody has done research concerning the issue. So you want to take it up and do research, right? So you have seen empirical gap, right? Something that is happening, but there's no research done about this topic, and you want to do it, right? There's also a population gap. There has been a study in a specific population, a lot of population, group of people, but there's another population that we haven't looked at, right? So you want to do research to fill that gap, to learn about the population, the same issue, but in the different population, right? Theoretical gap, there might be issue that there have not been well-developed theory to explain the issue. You can develop a theory by doing a granted theory, right? A study, right? So you do a study and help you qualitative study using granted theory approach and develop a theory to explain a phenomenon. So these are some of the gaps that you can identify from the literature so that you'll be able to do your research, right? So it's very important because without identifying a research gap, there's no need for you to do research, right? because at the essence of you doing research is not only to answer your research question or test hypothesis, you have to contribute to the field. As you are contributing, you are filling a gap, you are adding knowledge, right, into the gap, into the to the existing knowledge, right? So let me give you this example. This one, I created it, I made it up, right? So just for this presentation. So looking at this one, there has been an increase in homeschooling since the start of COVID-19 pandemic. So the reason why I came up with this is that, personally, we are homeschooling our children, right? And we started homeschooling when COVID started, when there was lockdown. And then, after doing it, we realized that it's really helping our children. So we are now doing a permanent homeschooling our children. So that also caused me to come up with this kind of the interest and also the problem that we have to address, right? So there has been an increase in homeschooling since the start of COVID-19 pandemic. Because of the parents were not prepared to take this life-changing responsibility of formally educating their children from school, they ended up experiencing stress and burnout. Similarly, there was an upset of African-American parents opting for teaching their children at home. Now, I'm going to talk about the problem, right? The problem I plan to address in this study is there is limited evidence of African-American parents' motivations and challenges associated with homeschooling, right? So you see how I ended my my presentation with the problem that I want to address in a study, right? So I just want to find out from you, you can type your answer. What kind of gap am I trying to fill? Am I trying to fill the knowledge gap, methodology gap, empirical gap, population gap, theoretical gap? And another thing is that your gap you can do a study having filling more than one gap, right? You can fill both population gap and theoretical gap, or methodology gap, or the knowledge gap. So type the gap based on this statement. What do you think the gap? What kind of gap do I want to fill? Okay, somebody said knowledge gap. Let's see, knowledge. Yes, it can be a knowledge gap because we have limited knowledge concerning this issue about, the African-American motivation and the challenges that they face. So it could be also a knowledge gap. Population gap, yes, it could be a population because maybe there's a lot of study that's focused on the maybe all parents in the United States, but we haven't focused on particularly the African-American people, right? So it can be also seen as a population gap. Great. Empirical and population. Oh, great. So yes, you can also see as an empirical gap if you think that there is no study that have been done. There's a problem exists physically, right? But there is not a study that will back up that problem, right? So that makes it an empirical gap. So you see that you can look at it from empirical gap, knowledge gap, and population gap, right? So think about your topic and see the kind of gap that you want to fill, right? So the next one is you think about the purpose of the study, right? The purpose of the study is what exactly you want to find out in your study. What do you want to find out in the study, right? So what do you want to do to help to address the problem? So this, based on the example that I gave, the purpose of this qualitative study is to examine what motivated African-American parents to homeschool their children. In addition, the study will explore the challenges they face as they educate their children from home. there's another thing that you have to think about: consistency. You see how the problem that you want to address is consistent with what you want to do in the study. The problem is that there's a limited information about their motivation and challenges. The purpose is that I want to find out, I want to know their motivation, I want to know their challenges. So you always have to think about there should be always consistency between the problem that you want to address and the purpose of the study. And also, you have to state the approach that you are using, right? The general approach, like qualitative approach, right? Or qualitative study, or mixed method study, or quantitative study, right? So always make sure that your problem aligns, or the purpose aligns with the problem that you want to focus on. So let's go to the next one, your research question. So the research question is all about the specific question that you want to address in the study. Consistency. Your questions should be consistent with the purpose of your study, right? So an example here, the first one is, what motivated African-American parents to homeschool their children? Remember, the first part of the purpose is to think about the motivation. The second part, what? Challenges. The second part, what are the challenges African-American parents face as they educate their children from home? You always have to be consistent. Your problem that you want to find out should be consistent with the purpose of the study. The purpose of the study should be consistent with the research question that you want to find out. In terms of the research question, there are two types of research question. We have the quantitative research question and the qualitative research question. What I have here is a qualitative research question because the question is open-ended, it's exploratory in nature. Your answer will not be yes or no. If I want to do a quantitative study, I will say, is there a relationship between African-American motivations and the challenges that they face? Is there a relationship? It's an open-ended statement. So the answer will be yes or no. You do that if you are doing a quantitative study. So you have to know how to construct your research question, right? Your qualitative will be open-ended, quantitative will be close-ended. Sometimes your quantitative can be close-ended, like what are their levels of motivation, right? So this means that you are just describing their motivation using numbers, right? So, and the next one that we have to think about is the significance of the study. Why is your study important? Why should we waste time and resources to do your study? Why should you waste your time? Or you're not wasting your time. Why should you commit your time in doing this study? You have to convince people, right? Who are going to benefit from your study? How are they going to benefit, right? So it's very important to state it is a way of defending your topic, defending the problem that you are focusing on, right? So the next one is the delimitation. And I like this diagram that I designed. When you get access to, you see the diagram well. So delimitation is like a boundary, right? Boundaries created to achieve the set research goals. What is the scope of your study in terms of your topic? You cannot focus on everything, right? That's why you have a boundary, right? So it's like something that helps you to limit your study. You can say that my topic is limited to this area. I'm not focusing on all the minorities in the United States. I'm just going to focus on African-American parents. I have delimited my focus in terms of the population. I'm going to focus on qualitative study. Specifically, I'm going to use phenomenological approach. I have delimited my approach. I'm going to use about a year to do this research. Delimitation, right? So think about the delimitation as what boundary do you have to draw, right? You cannot do everything. You cannot focus on everything. You cannot use all the strategies in this world, right? So that's how you have to think about. It's very different from limitations. Limitations are action that you take in the study and that led to a weakness. One of the action that I'm taking in this study is I'm focusing on using qualitative approach. There's a weakness. What is the weakness of using a qualitative approach? You cannot generalize your findings. It's a limitation. I chose an approach, and this is a limitation I'm gonna get, right? So limitation is all about a weakness associated with the, with like sample recruitment. So as you are recruiting, what are the limitations you're going to face, right? What in terms of a method, instead of data collection strategy that you're going to use? If you are using an interview, what are the strengths and limitations? What are the limitations of using interviews, right? And data analysis strategy. So it's all about action that you are taking in a study, a decision that you are taking, and what shortcomings associated with the decision that you are taking. Why should we talk about it? Everything that you do in the research, you have strengths and a weakness. If you are doing a qualitative study, there's a strength and a weakness. If you are doing a quantitative study, there's a strength and a weakness, right? So you as a researcher should be aware of the strength, at the same time aware of the weakness of the study, so that you will be able to communicate that information to your audience. It shows how transparent you are. At the same time, it shows the credibility of your findings, because you have acknowledged that there's some weaknesses that researchers should be aware of. And also sometimes you can talk about the weaknesses and how you are planning to minimize those weaknesses. Right. So you also talk about theoretical framework. And I don't know whether I have a lot of time. Mr. Sediko, how many minutes do I have before the question, so that I know how to finish the rest on time, because I want people to also ask me questions.
How many more minutes do you want, Doctor?
Let me see. Wow, I have a lot. Okay, I think I can do 15 minutes.
Okay, it's fine. You're granted 15 minutes.
Okay, great. So theoretical framework, I have to say that in terms of theoretical framework, it's one of the challenging areas that researchers face, not only students, right? But I just want you to understand that you can make things very simple for you, right? For yourself. If you understand what theoretical and conceptual framework is all about, right? Think about it. It's just like a glue, right? You are connecting your study to the existing study. It's just like a bridge. You are linking your phenomenon of study to existing body of knowledge or the literature. It's just like a foundation. You are just trying to, the house will be the study, but without building a good foundation, the house will not stand, your study will not stand. So you are building a foundation. It's just like a sign. It's showing people the direction of your study. When you understand theoretical framework this way, it will help you to construct it well. So theoretical frameworks is all about you are going through the literature, right? It's not a literature review. You are identifying theories or models that are related to your topic or the problem that you want to focus on. So in the example that I gave you about homeschooling, right? If I want to identify a theory, I go into the literature, look at studies that have been done concerning homeschooling and challenges. and see whether there's existing theory that explain how parents engage in homeschooling and the problems and the challenges and the motivation that comes with it. Then when you identify the theory or the model, you take the theory and then you write about it. What is the meaning of the theory? What does it entail? What are the features? What are the characteristics? What are the assumptions? Assumptions are things that should exist for your study to be credible. So here, assumptions are things that are associated with the theory that makes the theory valid. How is this theory connected to your study? What is the role of your study, right? What is the role of the theory in terms of informing your study that you are focusing on? If you have answers to this, you'll be able to construct the theoretical framework in a nice way, right? And also our book will also help you if you can get access to one of our book, The Theoretical Foundation in Phenomenological Approach. We give step-by-step ways of developing conceptual or theoretical framework. And I always tell you, students, that this is a work in progress. Why is it work in progress? You have identified a theory. Right now, you thought this one is the best theory explaining everything that you want to focus on. And then as you are also continuing to review literature, you identify another theory that is better than this one, or add to the existing theory. You have to go back and make an adjustment to the conceptual theoretical framework, right? So make sure that it doesn't end until you finish your study, because you may encounter or be exposed to a new theory that is better than the original one that you took. Maybe you have to go back and make an adjustment. You can focus on more than one theory, especially if the first theory is not explaining everything. Maybe the first theory is explaining the motivation, and the second theory is also explaining the challenges that people face, right? So that you can combine them to inform your study. So then we go to the literature review. Literature review is very important. Why is the literature review important? You are educating yourself about a topic and also your readers. You are trying to situate your study in the body of knowledge, right? You want to use the literature to justify your study. You want to use the literature to inform your study. So it's very important. Before you can do research to contribute to the field, you have to know what is there, what has been done. And that's why you have to do literature review. It's so important, right? You cannot contribute without knowing what is there, right? So and I think that there's a video here that could help you to understand literature review and how to conduct that. So we also talk about, you have to think about the research methods, right? So we have the qualitative research method, quantitative research method, and mixed methods. Because of time, I cannot go through everything, but this diagram will help you to better understand. And I have resources there, short videos to also help you to know the kinds of qualitative approach that you have to use. If you are doing a quantitative study, there are different types. The diagram will help you. And if you are using a mixed method study tool, there are different types of mixed method, and this diagram will help you. So you have to choose the best one for your study. So for this research question, I think phenomenological approach will be the best. Why? Because I want to capture people's experience. Phenomenology is used when you want to study the experience of participants. They have experienced something. They have experienced homeschooling, and you want to capture that information. What motivated them to be in homeschooling, right? And what are the challenges that they are facing? It's all about phenomenology. You capture people's experience. And then you think about population and sample, right? Who are you going to collect data from? From my example, I'm going to focus on African Americans who are parents who are homeschooling their children, right? How am I going to assess them? Maybe there might be a Facebook group there that focus on homeschooling, people homeschooling their children. I can go there and recruit participants from there. Or I can also put ad online and give description of people who I need. And so if they qualify, they can contact me so that I can interview them. So you have to find ways of accessing your participant. You have to find in an ethical way, right? The next one is the procedure. This is so important. You are given step by step how you're going to collect your data from participants. Right. After you have recruited them, how are you going to collect your data? So you recruit them. If it's a qualitative study like the example I gave you, they contact me, right? And then I schedule a time with them. Because of location, maybe are located, located in Georgia, maybe they are located in maybe Florida or California. I might not be able to go there. So I might use maybe Zoom to interview them, right? So I schedule a time with them. And I have to also establish that kind of trust with them, right? So before the Zoom interview and everything, I can book an appointment with them or have a discussion about what is expected of them, what my topic's all about, what I'm looking for. And then the day comes, they come, and then you interview them, ask them all the questions that you need to ask, and collect all the information that you need so that you'll be able to analyze and then use it to address your research question, right, that you have. So data analysis. So after you have collected your data, you have to think about how you're going to analyze. There are a lot of software that you could use. You can use SPSS for quantitative data. And there are also free software that you can use to analyze your quantitative data. If you want more information, you can email me. I can send you a link to free software that you can use to analyze your qualitative data. For quantitative data. For qualitative, you can use you can do it manually, right? Go through the transcript and develop themes, or you can use a software that will help you to organize your themes and code. I have a lot of presentation. When you go to YouTube and search my name, you'll be able to get information about how you analyze the qualitative data. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. When there's a link to that on this PowerPoint if you get access to it. Then you have to think about a timeline, right? So this is an example of the timeline. If I were to do this research, so I'll think about January to March next year, developing a proposal, and then I have to send to ethical boards for them to approve. And then I have to collect my data from June, July to August, and then September, October, I analyze the data and then finish my presentation and everything by November, right? Having a timeline is so important. Without having a plan, and then when you want to accomplish it, it's going to be difficult for you to finish on time. Have a plan in place. Estimate the time that you want to finish, and then do the calculations, and then put the time, and then work towards it, right? So that you'll be able to accomplish your goal. And then the next one that you have to think about. So remember I talked to you about assembling. We have done assembling. Now you are building. Building is more of, try to structure, try to make it in such a way that it makes sense to your readers. This is where you have to, when you are writing, thinking about your reading. So now you have everything that you need when you assemble everything. But now you're going to write for your readers to review, right? Thinking about your expectation, thinking about your requirements. You are going to communicate, right? So you are not doing the proposal just for yourself. You are doing it for somebody to review. So when the same thing as when you are writing a book, you think about your audience. When you are writing a proposal, you are thinking about your readers. What are their expectations? What are their characteristics? What are their requirements? So that you follow, right? Then lastly, when you present your document to them, you may have to do an oral presentation, right? This is where what is also important. You have presented the content to them, right? Now you have to, do the presentation. You also have to practice. Knowing your content is also equally important, or practicing and being able to communicate your content is equally important as knowing your content. If I know my content, I call myself methodology expert. If I cannot communicate what my expertise are, what my knowledge is, nobody will know that I'm an expert. So communication is so important. As you think about knowing your content, also think about how do you let people know, make sense of your content? How do you communicate, right? This is all about practicing, right? Learning the skill of communication, learning the skill of telling your story, learning the way that your audience will understand and convince them, thinking about the potential questions that they're going to ask you, and prepare yourself. These are the things that they don't teach you in school. They only teach you to be knowledgeable about your content. They don't teach you how to communicate your content to your audience, how to tell your story, how to connect your content to your story so that people will remember what you said. So let me give you an example. I'm about to end this presentation. Maybe you've forgotten everything I've told you, but maybe I told a little bit about myself that you know now. Remember I told you about the fact that we are homeschooling our children. It's a story that I gave you, right? You forget about everything that I said, but you remember that I told you this. Story is so powerful. So whenever you are communicating, try to insert your story into it. Let it be, let your information be memorable, right? When you are asked to give presentations, don't go just to tell about people about the content. Try to make it relatable. This is where you learn about public speaking and communication and practicing. Practice and read less from the PowerPoint, read less from your paper, and connect with people, right? And that's what it's all about. As I said, in schools, you'll be taught about knowing the content, but you will not be taught about how to effectively communicate your content. You will not, nobody will tell you how to know your audience, how to understand your committee members, how to let know how they deal with people so that you can navigate through the process. And that is what this is all about. So this is the end of my presentation. If you are analyzing your data and you want to know the step-by-step of how to analyze your qualitative data, this will be perfect for you. If you are a professor and you are teaching a research method, you can get this book for free by clicking on this one, right? The same thing as this one, if you are doing a phenomenological approach or you want to learn how to develop theoretical or conceptual framework, this book will be very perfect for you. I also have courses online and I make it so simple for people to understand. So if you click on this link, you can get access to the courses. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay, right? You always have to add value to your skills, but sometimes you have to also pay something to add a lot of value to your skills that you have. I also have research mindset community that you can join for free. We share ideas and learn from each other. And also, if you want to get some of my documents, you can get access to that information too, right? I always do PDFs about and simplifying research topics. You can go there and get access to that thing too. So this is my information. If you want to get in touch with me, this is how you can follow me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of information, a lot of PowerPoint on SlideShare. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also, if you want consultation about your research, you can book an appointment with me. You can email me and then we can meet and have a discussion. So that's what I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Phillip.
You're welcome.
That was very informative. What we are going to request now is colleagues to raise up their hands, ask questions. Please, because of time, just go straight to question. and let's not try to explain what Dr. Phillip was saying. Okay, do you mind stop sharing, Dr. Phillip?
Yes, let me stop.
Stop sharing so that we can see.
Yes.
Yeah. Colleagues, you can raise up your hand. Assist me to Dr. Phillip in checking the hands. Then we can. The first one is Irene Among. Please go, Irene, followed by Polly Bushielo.
Thank you. I wanted to find out for a proposal defense, what aspects of the proposal should one prioritize?
So it all depends on the school. You always have to talk to people who have finished or people who have finished their defense so that you learn from them. Sometimes some schools, they already have a PowerPoint in there that you will tell you what exactly you have to talk about. But what I always say is that people who are coming to the defense, most of them, they have read your proposal, right? So what you have to do is to focus on the main areas. If I'm listening to your defense, I want to know the specific problem that you want to address. I want to know the purpose of the study. I want to know your research question. I want to know the population you want to focus on. I want to know the research approach, right? How are you going to collect data? How are you going to analyze your data? These are the things that I want to know. And also, brief information about literature and a theoretical framework, right? But you have to, this is where, communication comes, because you have to construct it in such a way that the information is flowing, right? From the problem to the proposed analysis of your study. So it depends on the school, and also generally you just have to focus on the main issues. You don't want to go into detail. Sometimes based on the time that you have given you, right? If you have been given 15 minutes to do the presentation, you don't have to tell everything. Just tell the most important thing, because remember, most of the committee members, they have already read your document, right? So you don't have to go into detail and present a boring thing that people might not pay attention, right? So try and focus on the most important aspect of it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Polly. You're next.
Thank you very much, Doctor, and thanks for the powerful presentation. I think now I have gained a lot. Just two questions. One, on the issue of the literature review, where do we stop? Because we will go on and on and on and on. And at the end, if we have to, like you say, bring them together, then it become a problem, because I think we have went on and not even know where to stop.
Yes.
And linked to this also is the issue of own knowledge and experiences. As we grow up and also study, some of the things you are able to, you've got the knowledge, the experience, but then it seems it's a must that you must reference everything and not necessarily, be able to express them as you know them. Especially like me, I'm doing my doctorate in terms of administration in government, where I've been working for almost my life. The last one is on the conceptual and theoretical framework. I've seen you have given us a link that we can be able to use, because I think it's where I need to do more, because the research that I'm doing also, I want to come out with frameworks on how some of the things that I'm researching can be done and easily. Thank you very much, and thanks for the powerful presentation.
Thank you, Polly. Yes, so for concerning the literature review, yes, I get this one a lot. And when do you have to stop, right? I think that at the beginning, if you can give yourself some kind of areas that you want to focus on. So if, let's say, the topic is too broad, you have to narrow it down. So one example is that, let's say you are studying a topic and your population is the people in South Africa, right? And then you have enough research done, a lot of research done, an article written about the issue that the population is only for South Africa. You can focus on that, right? Normally what you do is that when you realize that there's a limited information about the topic concerning study in South Africa, the population that you have, then you have to enlarge it and say that, okay, can I focus on maybe all African countries, any study that has been done about a topic? If you have less research done, can I make it to maybe the whole developing countries, right? So it's like you expand it if you feel that you have limited information. When do you have to stop? Sometimes it's so difficult because sometimes it's individual decision, right? And I think this is where your supervisors will help you. Sometimes if you feel that you have gotten enough, the level of saturation, if you can use the principle of the level of saturation, where the same thing as when you interview people and you reach a stage where no new information is being collected, I think you just have to end there and focus on what you have and analyze and develop themes, right? So when you are reviewing literature, you realize that it's like when you are reviewing more, you realize that it's the same kind of ideas that are coming up. Then it's a signal to you that you have reached a little some level of saturation. Then you can stop and start writing about it until maybe your supervisor will tell you, oh, have you looked into this aspect, right? Then you can research more, right? So it's sometimes challenging to know where you have to reach, but using the principle of saturation will help you. Using the thing of like the population will guide you, right? It's the same thing as our topic two. When you focus on a little topic and you realize that there's not a lot of literature on that little topic, you can expand the topic a little bit, right? Or go to another area of study, right? So area of study or another profession or something like that to get some information from there and then bring it into your study. So when you look at my PowerPoint, the video there will be really helpful for you. I think it will address your question concerning that. Concerning the conceptual and theoretical framework, sometimes it's sometimes challenging, but what you have to think about is sometimes you may not be able to identify a theory or a theory or a model that will help you to better develop a conceptual theoretical framework. You may come up with concepts, right? So you have to also think about if there's a limited information about the theory existing that you could use to construct a conceptual theoretical framework. You have to also look into concept. Can you identify various concepts in your area and bring them together and see whether there's a relationship between them? Is there any explanatory relationship, causal relationship, or concurrent relationship with them? And then based on that, you can come up with a structure, a framework, try to look at the connection between the concept that you have identified, right? And as I said, it's always going to be work in progress, and it's going to be a little challenging concerning that. You just have to continue to search and then develop your own, and also use your literature to maybe refine it. So this, use your study. So when after you identify, you arrive at your findings, then you can, as you are interpreting your findings, you can compare your findings with the conceptual framework, and then it will help you to refine the conceptual framework or theoretical framework. So there are many ways that you can approach.
Sarah, you'll be the last one. Then from there, we'll go to the chat box. Then we're about to close. Sarah.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity. I just want to ask a question on originality, and assuming I were to start my research, and in between my research, and it's also related to how much literature am I supposed to read while writing my proposal, and assuming I've read like quite a lot of literature, but on starting my research, I found out that what I'm researching on, someone has done something really similar to it, and then it challenges the originality of my work and also challenges my contribution to knowledge. How do I mitigate issues like that?
There's nothing new under the sun, right? Always think about that. I think that When I was starting to do research, I started when I was doing my undergraduate. I had a misconception that your topic should be really unique. Nobody has done this topic before. I'm not going to tell anybody about this topic because I don't want people to copy my topic. Everything that you are doing, somebody might have done it before, but you can look at it from different perspectives. You can do the same research looking at it from a different theory, right? So let's say there's a theory about emancipation theory, right? Trying to help people to solve their problem, to relieve them from difficulty that they have or the problem that they are facing, right? The same topic can look at from that lens and do the research. So you see how you can contribute by focusing on the same topic. You can also focus on the same topic, but different population. You can focus on the same topic, but different methodology, right? So I will not worry about whether somebody has done it before, but think about what will make yours a little bit different from what has been done. If the research has been done a lot, but in developed countries, and nothing has been done in Nigeria or South Africa, it's about population gap. You can do the same research, focusing on a different population. You may have different results because you are focused on different population, right? So you see how now your topic is now limitless. You can focus on any topic and think about the making it a little bit different based on the population that you are focusing, based on the theoretical perspective, based on your lens, based on the methodology, right? So you can really focus on similar topic, but different, looking at a different perspective.
I'll encourage colleagues to please follow Dr. Phillip Adu on his various social media platforms. Then you can take some questions directly with him and you can organize one-on-one with him. Maseko, Sandiso Maseko, the last person.
Oh, no, but I was just appreciating this Nomvula understands. I'm really appreciating this session. So thank you so much for organizing and for inviting us.
Yeah,
You're
thank
welcome.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, we are at the end of our presentation. Dr. Phillip Adu is the founder of the Center Research Methods Consulting. As a methodology expert at this center, he provides research methodology services to researchers, practitioners, and students. He has a PhD in education from the West Virginia University. He has a master's degree from Ohio University, and he's got a BA in psychology from the University of Ghana. Feel free to go and search for Dr. Phillip Adu in various social media platforms and follow him. He's available for one-on-one session. Yes, some of the sessions you need to pay. You can download some of the sessions on his YouTube channel for free. So feel free to go and subscribe to his channels. There is power in social media. I met Dr. Phillip Adu on social media. I just sent him an email to say, please come and share your knowledge on research. And I want to thank you, Dr. Phillip, for responding positively on our request. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's always an honor to, speak to people like what you have here. I really appreciate you inviting me. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, we are at the end of our session. If you want to know more about other sessions that will be coming, please go to the chat box there. I've shared my YouTube channel. I've shared my Facebook page. I've shared my Twitter account. Follow me on those channels, then you'll see other webinars that we'll be hosting in the near future. Thank you so much, colleagues.